The animation tools and capabilities in Cinema 4D are outstanding. Every parameter of an object that shows a small circle in front of it can be animated. The keyframes are fully adjustable when using the tools in the timeline window, or if you prefer, make the changes visually by manipulating the control handles. If you have the need for numerical accuracy, go into the Attributes Manager of each keyframe and enter the values with decimal precision. And to aid in the animation of complex structures, such as text, you can always use the basic MoGraph capabilities found under the MoGraph menu. Let's take a look.
The animation for this type of elements is very simple. Using the MoGraph module included in Cinema 4D Lite has the fracture element. The fracture element will allow me to break apart the MoGraph text letters and animate them individually, even though I have the text still in live mode. So I'm going to go ahead and select the fracture element, and it is added to my Objects Manager. In here, I make sure that my extruded text is inside as a child of the fracture element. And one of the powers of MoGraph for animation is called the effectors. The effectors are found also inside the MoGraph menu. There are two effectors included with Cinema 4D Lite, the plane and the random. The random, it randomizes many of the animations, meaning that it's not 100% controllable, but it creates a very nice effect. So if I select it, it is added to the Object Manager. To make sure that it is indeed added to the fracture element, go to the Attributes, Effectors, and in there we're going to see that the effector random has been added to the list. If for any reason I'm going to delete that, was not added, it's very simple. In the fracture element, effectors, just take the random effector and drag it and drop it inside the effectors list in here. Now, to make sure what exactly is the random effector doing, we have to click and select the random effector in the Object Manager, go down here into the parameter, and notice it is randomizing our position of every single character in the X, Y, and Z coordinates at 50 centimeters on each axis. If I disable the position, then everything goes back to normal here in my text. Now I'm going to activate the rotation, and I'm going to add some values. Let's say on the heading, I'm going to rotate 180 degrees, and maybe in the banking or in the Z-axis, I'm going to rotate 45 degrees. But this is going to be the values that the random effector is going to take and randomize my characters to rotate them in this fashion. So if we look at those elements, we can see that indeed every single element is rotated randomly according to those values. Now, right now, if I play back this element, nothing is happening because there are no keyframes or any automatic animation happening. And if you notice, in the Effector tab, we have something called the strength. So you could keyframe the strength to create an animation like this. Now, there are other ways to animate this in a more interesting fashion. The other way is to go into the Follow tab, but we can select something different, a different shape. In this case, the sphere, for example. And now we can see that there is a sphere happening in there. That is the representation of the fall-off of our random effector. So in other words, whatever is touching that sphere is being affected somehow by the random effector, and whatever is not touching that sphere is not affected. And we can see that the pH and the MO are completely normal unless we move our random effector around. And now we can animate all the characters depending on how or where that sphere is located. And like I said before, your text can be live, meaning that if I want to go back to the original text, let's suppose I want to type Cinema 4D text again, then the whole thing is going to animate exactly the same, except that now there is another message in there. So basically, this is the basis of how to animate with MoGraph inside Cinema 4D Lite.